Hello, my name is John Saawaechter, speaking to you from West Seattle. Today I was asked to talk about meaningful scriptures in my life. One that quickly came to mind is the miracle of the feeding of the multitude, which occurs on two separate occasions in the scriptures. Let's recall one of the accounts from Mark chapter 6. By this time it was late in the day, so his disciples came to him. "This is a remote place," they said, "and it's already very late. Send the people away so that they can go to the surrounding countryside and villages and buy themselves something to eat." "But," he answered, "you give them something to eat." They said to him, "That would take more than half a year's wages. Are we to go and spend that much on bread and give it to them to eat?" "How many loaves do you have?" he asked. "Go and see." When they found out, they said, "5, and 2 fish." Then Jesus directed them to have all the people sit down in groups on the green grass. So they sat down in groups of hundreds and fifties. Taking the 5 loaves and 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks and broke the loaves. And then he gave them to the disciples to distribute to the people. He also divided the 2 fish among them all. They all ate and were satisfied, and the disciples picked up 12 basketsfuls of broken pieces of bread and fish. As a child, I accepted this story as simply Jesus miraculously multiplying the loaves and fish and didn't take much more from it than that. But as a young adult, I revisited these stories with a study group, including discussion of author Parker Palmer's writings about these miracles. This was focused on the common interpretation that these miracles were about community and sharing instead of literally multiplying food. Jesus had the disciples direct the multitudes of thousands of people to sit down in small groups. He then demonstrated gratefulness, sharing, and caring for each other using the 5 loaves and 2 fish. This interpretation then concludes that people in the crowd actually had enough food and resources for everyone, but were afraid to reveal that information until they saw Jesus's and the disciples' attitude of abundance and demonstrating how to be generous and kind to each other. These scriptures are influential to me and help ground my thinking about the ongoing struggle to see God's world as one of abundance for all instead of a world of scarcity and competition. I recently had a wake-up call about my assumptions, how they still easily drift towards limits and scarcity. I've been reading about getting prepared for the big one, which is the nickname of the future earthquake that will affect the Pacific Northwest from Northern California all the way up to British Columbia. It could be a full rip tear, magnitude 9.0 earthquake. Experts suggest that instead of being able to care for yourself and your family for the typical 3 days we've all been asked to be self-sustaining following an earthquake, the big one will create widespread regional infrastructure damage, requiring people to be fully self-sustaining and self-sufficient for at least 2 weeks, without power, running water, emergency services, and usable roads or bridges. One of my thoughts right away was that people will start hiding and protecting their resources under such conditions. And it brought back thoughts of loaves and fishes. I then read that the evidence is that people actually form tight communities to help each other and share and nurture each other in times of such disasters. They bond together to provide for everyone, taking care of people's needs and being generous with labor and supplies. And this was a good reminder for me that God provides for us all and that impossible situations become manageable when we care for and love one another and remember the stories of the loaves and fishes. What is one of the scriptures that has been particularly meaningful to you? Do you remember where and when and why it took on special meaning? How has your understanding of it changed over time? How does it influence your daily life? I'm really looking forward to a day when we can gather again in person to share such thoughts and stories with each other. Peace to you, and have a good rest of the week.